Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the SPOR and XEVMPD status update webinar. We will now start the session. Next slide. Please note that this session today is being broadcasted. It will be recorded and it will be made available through the EMA corporate website. At certain points throughout the meeting, the participants will be able to ask questions or give their input via the Slido tool. Interaction with Slido is voluntary and you may opt to remain anonymous. If you choose to provide us your personal data, your name, you are hereby consenting to the processing of your personal data as explained in EMA Data Privacy Statement for Slido. As I mentioned, please join via the Slido QR code available on the screen to provide your questions and comments using Slido only. Please send and upvote the questions that you want to hear answered. Today, the session will be fairly brief, and at the end, we will have dedicated slots for questions and answers. Questions will be shown on the screen and managed live in this Q&A parts. EMA colleagues today will not be addressing the questions in written form while the session is ongoing and will only address them, the top 5 voted questions at the end of each part of the presentation. So please look for questions in Slido, vote for the questions you want to see answered, because those are the ones that we will be addressing after each part of the presentation today. At the end of the webinar altogether, we may have some unanswered questions. This can be due to the high volume of questions or if there's a specific topic that we require assistance from a colleague that's not available today. We will look at those unanswered questions, review them, and the most relevant ones we will include in our FAQ documents for SPOR. We may request that for specific points you contact us via the service desk so we can track the question, investigate, and actually address them properly for you. So please bear with us. Put your questions in Slido. We will address them at different parts of the presentation verbally. Presentations today will be available after the session, the webinar, on the SPOR portal document section and EMA events webpage. The recordings of the webinar will be made available on the EMA YouTube channel and also EMA events webpage. So I am Isabel Shishiru. I am the head of the Regulatory Data Management Department and responsible for SPOR and XEVMPD. And today's webinar aims at sharing a short-term status update on what we're doing in SMS, OMS, RMS, and XEVMPD. And we will be focusing only on recent and planned changes from the previous quarter, the next quarter, and the impacts to the users. So this webinar has a slightly different format from the previous ones we've organized. And it mostly results from feedback from the customer satisfaction survey that we run on a yearly basis. And on that survey, it was requested for more frequent and targeted information just on changes. Therefore, we are now experimenting with the format. I do hope that you appreciate it, and we'll be also seeking for feedback at the end of the webinar to see if we've met our customers' needs. So today's session. Next slide, please. We just started with welcome and housekeeping notes. We will first have a status update from SMS, the substances domain provided by Pedro Batista, followed by XEVMPD, presented by Veronica and Marcos, OMS status update, RMS, and also IAM. We will end up with a wrap-up of any questions that is not addressed on any particular point. So on that note, I wish you a positive webinar, and I hand over to Pedro Batista, the SMS business lead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pedro Batista, and I'll be giving you an update on the SMS activities. So in this slide, you can see the last activities that we have performed and the future activities that we are planning to do. So here, I would like to mention the data management activities. So for the next quarters, we will continue to perform our data enrichment exercises on the INN lists, the USAN names, Unicodes, and also the European Pharmacopoeia monographs. In terms of data quality, we will continue to build more data quality profiles to ensure the high data quality in SMS, and then a series of activities that I will focus on the next slide. And in terms of documentation, so we have completed the guidance for external users on SMS. This was the first version, and we will continue to work on future versions in the next quarters. And in terms of awareness activities, we have completed the work on the SMS API, and I'll be talking more about that soon. So now I will be describing the main activities that we have completed in the past quarters, and I will start with the new data fields that are available in the substance export in the SPOR portal. So the reason why we have done this was to increase substance data to all stakeholders, but also to support the future antimicrobial sales and use platform. And the new fields available, not only on the export, but also on the API, are the molecular weight and the INN codes. And this will increase the SMS data quality and allow more data for everyone to use. Then a big activity that we have completed was the development substances cleansing. So development substances were substances registered by sponsors in XCV-MPD before the SMS go live, so before 2019. And these substances, they had special attributes, and they were only visible to the sponsor that registered them. And there was also no EMA validation in this process. So these substances had many duplicates and incomplete data. And we have been working on this for the past years, and we mapped them to approved substances that had been validated by EMA. And we have replaced the development products from these development substances to a replacement approved substance. And we have finally been able to nullify all these development substances in SMS and XCV-MPD. So thanks to this, development substances cannot be used in any regulatory procedure. The same SMS ID will be used across the whole substance and product lifecycle, which will lead to an improvement in data quality, not only in SMS, but also in the development products and in clinical trial applications as well. In terms of documentation, so taking into account the customer satisfaction survey, the main feedback for SMS was for more and better documentation. So we have finally published the SMS guidance for external users that you can find in the SPOR portal in the SMS tab, where you can have the key principles of SMS, consuming systems, how to use the API, and other data activities that we performed. Now, speaking of the API, we have also enabled the access to industry users. Before, the API was only available to NCA users. Now, everyone can connect to the SMS API. Industry users will only be able to see public data, and the instructions to access it are in the SMS guidance. So in terms of the next activities, so we are planning to populate new data fields and make them available in the export and in the API. And these data fields are relationships and EC list number. So this is the European Commission number for substances, which will allow us to map with other EU stakeholders, so other EU agencies, such as the Food and Safety Agency and the Chemicals Agency, but also with the European Commission directly. And the relationships will support several different regulatory procedures, such as shortages, veterinary activities, and pharmacovigilance. So we are expecting to make both these data fields available still this quarter, in quarter 2, and then it will be available in the export and in the API. In terms of data cleansing, we are currently working on human vaccines. So the substance validation group is reviewing them, and then we are planning to implement it in quarter 3. And in parallel, we are also addressing the substances with SVG flag 0. So these are duplicated or invalid substances that have been identified during previous data cleansing exercises. So we wanted to nullify them, but they were linked to ICSRs or products in XCV-MPD, so we could not address them. So we are currently analyzing it, and once we have concrete timelines and actions for you, either as marketing authorization holders or NCAs, we will communicate. And then the plan is to have a data fix to relink products and ICSRs, and then we can finally nullify these substances. In terms of documentation, so we do have a guidance published, but we acknowledge that it does not cover all the SMS activities. So we'll be publishing a new version in quarter 3, which will also cover business rules for different substance types and also what we do with data quality monitoring. So to summarize, in the past quarters, we published the SMS guidance, we made the API available to industry, we completed the data cleansing of development substances, and we made molecular weight and INN codes available in the export. We are now working in the EC number and relationships sold to parent, and also human vaccines cleansing. And we will soon publish the next version of the guidance and start the cleansing of the substances with SVG flag 0. Okay. Thank you. And now to XCV-MPD.
I think now we pause for a few questions on SMS. I see that questions have started coming through Slido, but they're in all different topics in RMS, OMS, and XCV-MPD. So for the moment, we will only address the ones for SMS. So the first one that we have for Pedro is what SVG flag 0 means exactly.
That's a good question. So the SVG flag is managed as external code in SMS. So you can see it in the export and in the API in the code section. And this is a way that we have to highlight to you that this substance should not be used. So once a substance is reviewed by the SVG, we either add SVG flag 1, so the substance has been reviewed and it's a good substance, you can use it. And we can add it as 0, which means that you should not use the substance, either because it's a duplicate, and then you can see the replacement substance in the comment section and also in the replacement section, or it's an invalid substance. And in these cases, it's not really possible to provide one replacement substance. There might be multiple, or there might be no replacement possible. Those cases would have to be addressed one by one. But these are substances that we want to nullify, but because they are being used either in products or in ICSRs, we cannot address them at the moment. So we need to make an analysis, make a plan, inform all the stakeholders, the marketing authorization holders, and impacted NCAs, so that the substance can be relinked and then nullified in the future.
So next question, Pedro.
So the next question is, how long will CSV files be provided by EMA through public SPOR website? So we don't have any plan to remove it. So these CSV files are refreshed on a daily basis. So there is one for the current substances and one for the non-current substances, but we are planning to maintain them for forever. Then, is there a plan to be able to submit new update substance requests via the web portal or via the SMS API? So there is an intention to develop a web user interface that allows the submission of change requests for SMS, but this Epic this new functionality has not been prioritized for this year. So for this year, the process will remain as is, which is submitting tickets in EMA Service Desk, where they are processed by SMS data stewards in SMS, and then you will receive the reply via Service Desk. Well, the instructions to access the SMS API are in the guidance, but it involves going to EMA account management, and then you just request access to the SMS API there. Then, related to SVG flag 0 and UPD, we have old products with that substances without flag 1, and UPD blocks that products when we had concerned member states. So this is a question more on UPD process, and so I think I will not be able to reply here, but we can address this question in writing later. And when will SMS be shown in SPOR? So there is already some functionalities in SPOR. So you can see the substance exports, you can see the guidance, but there is no user interface for SMS in SPOR.
There's 2 more questions just came in.
SMS UPD product updates are blocked by quality issues. Example, substances with non-current status SMS. SMS gets updated in line with SVG review. Can this be put on hold when VET products are affected? Is this possible? So we have been made aware of these impacts on UPD recently, and we are liaising with colleagues on UPD now. So there will be a different approach for the future. So we will be liaising with UPD on a regular basis to ensure that any impact of changing the status in SMS is properly mitigated in UPD. So this is acknowledged and it is being addressed. And yes, so this is the same question. So we are addressing this, and we will try to ensure that UPD is not impacted by this in the future.
I don't see any particular question on SMS. If questions still come up, feel free to add them to Slido, and we have a little break at the end to go through any outstanding questions. We will now move to XEVMPD.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica Baker, and I will be providing you with an update of the activities that we have performed in the last quarter and which are planned for the rest of this year. We continue with the creation of knowledge-based articles, which will be published in the EMA service desk. As you are aware, we have also changed the submission rules with regards to MAH information in the XCVMPD. Marketing authorization holders are now strongly recommended to enter the MAH information in XCVMPD as it was entered in OMS, and also include the log ID of that organization entity in OMS in the comment field of the MAH organization in XCVMPD. This will allow us to ensure that the information is really consistent and will work in your favor when PMS goes live. And there was also a change in process with regards to creation of proposed terms in the XCVMPD. These are now to be requested via RMS change request. I will provide more information on this on the next slide. With regards to data quality, as my colleague Pedro informed you, the development substance data cleaning exercise continues. We still have some substances to nullify. It is ongoing and it's likely to continue for the next quarters. With regards to user access review by QPPVs and responsible persons, this was done in October 2023. Some of the QPPVs and responsible persons should also now have received another notification related to this exercise. Again, I will provide more information on the next slide. In Q1 this year, we have implemented a technical restriction on the submission of proposed terms by marketing authorization holders and sponsors.
Not yet.
Apologies, not yet. Sorry, we're having some technical issues here. Thank you. We have implemented technical restrictions on the submission of proposed terms by sponsors and marketing authorization holders. Again, more information will be provided on the next slides. We also performing increased checking of information on centrally authorized medicinal products. And we have also completed a pre-pharmacovigilance fee advice note product check. Again, more information will be provided on later slides. With regards to the activities that will be happening now from Q2, as mentioned before, the user access review by QPPVs and responsible persons is to be performed. And also I will provide some information about the proposed terms data cleaning exercise. Also, like Pedro mentioned for SMS, we will also be building some data quality profiles for XCVMPD data. And as you are aware, towards the end of the last year, we have also updated and published Chapter 3.2 and the guidance documents for sponsors. We are now also continuing the review and update of XCVMPD training documentation and the XCVMPD related web pages. Next slide, please. Thank you. So with regards to the work that was completed in the last quarter, so as you are aware, there was a change in the process with regards how you request proposed terms. Why? The reason is to support PMS implementation and also to reduce the number of duplicated and incorrect terms in XCVMPD. How did we achieve it? Well, we are now requesting that marketing authorization holders and sponsors of clinical trials request the addition of standard as well as proposed terms via RMS change requests only. Previously, this was possible via an XCV PRM message when you submitted proposed terms in the XCVMPD directly. This is no longer possible from 18th of January 2024. There was, in fact, put a technical restriction on such submissions. If you do submit the insert or update or nullification of a proposed terms through an XCV PRM, you will receive a negative acknowledgement. What is the impact and the benefit to you? You need to update your internal processes and documents to reflect this change in process. The benefit is that there will be an improved data quality in XCVMPD. As my colleague Pedro mentioned, he provided some input related to the substance data clean exercise. I think I will just skip this one in order to save some time. With regards to documentation, as I mentioned before on the previous slides, we have updated those two important documents, so Chapter 3.2 and the guidance for sponsors. Please review these because these now reflect the new processes with regards to the submission of MAH information and proposed terms. Next slide, please. I have also mentioned the technical restriction on submission of the proposed terms. So again, please make sure that you do not attempt to submit an insert, update, or nullification of a proposed term by submitting an XCV PRM in the XCV MPD. You will receive a negative acknowledgement and your submission will not be completed. If you need to add a new proposed or indeed standard term in the XCV MPD, be it a pharmaceutical form, route of administration, or ATC code, please request these through RMS change requests. We have increased the checks on the centrally authorized medicinal product submissions, which means that some QPPVs may have received increased communication from us when we asking them to review their centrally authorized product data in the XCV MPD and perform necessary corrections if that is applicable. So again, what you can expect is increased communication from us. This will hopefully lead to improved quality of centrally authorized product data in XCV MPD and when PMS is live and also in PMS and EAF. Our team also performed a check of nearly 4,500 medicinal products in the XCV MPD, which are so-called checks pre-pharmacovigilance fee advice note. This means we were checking the marketing authorization status of these particular products with regards to information and status of the marketing authorization on the National Competent Authority website. We have been contacting QPPVs, again, asking for updates, etc. So if you are one of the lucky ones who received this communication, please review and, if possible, make sure that you update your product before 1st of July 2024, because that's when the pharmacovigilance fee invoice is generated. Next slide, please. What's next? As I briefly mentioned, all QPPVs and responsible persons should have already received a communication through the service desk as well as from the EMA account management portal, asking you to review the access of all users registered under your organization. If you do not perform any action, the access for these users will be revoked. So please do not ignore this communication. Approve the access, review the access, and approve the access of your users as applicable before the 18th of April. Proposed term cleaning exercise. In order to support the PMS implementation and to reduce migration issues, and obviously to avoid having incorrect or duplicated terms to be used in products in XCV, MPD, PMS, and EAF in the future, we are performing so-called mapping exercise with regards to XCV, MPD proposed terms and RMS terms. We are currently creating mapping lists of proposed terms, which can be remapped to standard terms. These lists will be published in RMS portal, I believe, by the end of the next week. What we will ask you to do is to review these lists and then update the product to reference the remapped terms. Once the incorrect proposed terms are no longer referenced in any products with a valid marketing authorization status, we will nullify these obsolete proposed terms. So the action on you is that when requested, we will ask you to perform product updates to reference replacement standard terms. We will also ask gateway users to ensure that you update your internal systems to reference the correct and current list. And this will lead to improved data quality in XCV MPD, and obviously the data will be migrated to PMS correctly. Next slide, please. Couple of highlights for you. Again, please review the updated Chapter 3.2 and guidance for sponsors. It provides new information. As previously mentioned, there are now technical restrictions on the submission and maintenance of proposed terms implemented, so you will receive negative acknowledgement if you will attempt to do insert, update, or nullification of proposed terms. There is a change in process for the submission of standard and proposed terms in XCVMPD, as mentioned before, and very important, QPPVs and responsible persons, please review the access for your users registered in the EMA account management portal before 18th of April. With regards to ongoing work, we are reviewing XCVMPD related documentation and web pages. The development substance cleansing exercise continues. We have reviewed the AMPs as part of the pre-advised note checks, and there's an increased a check related to centrally authorized product information in XCVMPD. Future changes, proposed terms data cleaning exercise. As I said, there will be mapping lists published hopefully by the end of the week on the RMS portal. And you will be requested to perform some updates in the XCVMPD if your product references the proposed terms that can be remapped. We are also going to be increasing data quality monitoring and data validation frequency, so you can expect more follow-up communication from us. Again, please review such communication and perform any requested changes if applicable. And what's happening in later future is that there will be submission of MRPs and DCPs under the nationally phased as pending products. This is currently deferred towards the end of the year. And we will also try and start doing a review of development medicinal product information in XCVMPD. Thank you.
So we will now move to questions from Slido.
Thank you.
Between Veronica and Marcos, I think they will take the questions. I'll leave to you to see which one does what.
Thank you. So the current XCVMPD guide on DMPs is not very extensive, in line with CTIS requirements. Is there any plan to provide a granular and updated guidance on investigational medicinal product registration in XCVMPD for different scenarios like in-licenses, out-licensing, and partnerships? Bear in mind that XCVMPD and CTIS are two different systems. CTIS is a consuming system. It takes the data from the XCVMPD. Therefore, the XCVMPD guidance provides submission guidance or guidance on the submission of unauthorized medicinal product data in the XCVMPD. The submission principles are described in that guidance. We have included some information with regards to how you can retrieve the EV codes that you need to register a clinical trial in CTIS. Please refer to Process Map 2 in the document. I don't think that we can merge CTIS requirements with XCVMPD requirements in an XCVMPD document. Okay, the next question, when will the data of NAPs be loaded from XCVMPD to product database? Marcos, over to you.
I can take this one. So in principle, as we speak, we are following all the steps that we need to follow for the PMS go live. We are right now doing some steps on the CAPS data from SciAmed, and in principle from tomorrow we will be following the steps for the XCVMPD migration. On the 16th of April, we have a webinar, the PMS Info Day. So hopefully by that day, we will be able to give the great news that we have migrated all the data. But in principle, as we speak, we are doing all these steps, following all these steps for the migration of data from XCVMPD. Yeah, when the user interface will be available to check the data migrates from XVMPD to PMS portal. So we will be delivering a user interface, the product UI, and we will also be delivering the PMS API. On our plans, this is going to happen by the end of May this year. And again, on the PMS Info Day, we will provide additional information how can you request access, the dates on when this is going to be available, etc., etc. But it's happening by the end of May. The next question, a lot of questions regarding the link between XVMPD and PMS. Will XVMPD continue to exist and data needs to be maintained by MA holders eventually when SPOR will be fully operative? So yes, XVMPD still continues and MA holders has a legal responsibility to keep the data maintained, so submitting new products and also keep the life cycle of the products in XVMPD. As we have also explained in other PMS webinars, the data from XVMPD is going to be pushed to PMS and the data will be consuming from there. Then when eventually SPOR will be fully operative? Well, actually it will be fully operative when we have PMS live, so all the systems and all the services will be running. Now, if the question is when XVMPD will be decommissioned, and I see another question here, as part of the agile way of working, we have an epic for the XVMPD decommissioned, but this has to be prioritized. We need to work on that. So for the moment, we don't have clear timelines on when this is happening. We need to prioritize the epic and release also different enablers to be able to decommission XVMPD. I would say this is for SMS, so I'm not taking this question. Maybe, I don't know if someone wants to say something.
Maybe I can just clarify. So the third acknowledgement that is referenced in this question is related to data validation. So companies only receive a third acknowledgement when the EMA validates their product in the XCVMPD. It is not related to SMS. If the question is asking, so if a substance is updated by the EMA as part of the product validation in the XCVMPD, the answer is yes, you will receive a third acknowledgement stating that your substance was updated in that product. Not sure if that was the question, however, that was my answer.
Okay, the next one is how can we reduce the number of charitable units if we need to ensure the submission of pack size levels as clarified for PMS? So charitable units are not taking into account the pack sizes. In fact, for some countries such as, for example, Italy or Romania, MA holders are already submitting at pack size level and they only receive a chargeable unit per medicinal product. So there is no impact on that now that MA holders will have to submit pack sizes for other products in other countries. The chargeable unit is at medicinal product level and therefore there will be no impact on that. The next one is again on the XCVMPD decommission plan. I think I have already replied. We have an epic to do that, and therefore we will be providing additional information once this epic is prioritized and we have established the different works and enablers that we need to deliver. So in principle, we don't have anything else to say about this. Is it technically possible to provide national identifiers in the CP-MRP number field in XCVMPD? This is because in PMS for national products where we have multiple languages, they are not correctly imported in PMS, and this might maybe solve the issue. So this is something that we can investigate. I don't think it's something feasible to use this field because it would be wrong to use this field. Nevertheless, we have a point to be discussed with the PMS SMEs. How can we solve this issue on products that are authorized in countries with multiple languages? Because it is true that we are creating additional pack sizes. So maybe we cannot use this field, but of course we will be discussing with the SMEs and also try to involve the NCAs that will be impacted by this. So are MA holders not contacted by EMA recommended to take any proactive change on the current products on XCVMPD?
So we contact QPPVs of certain MAH directly. We also communicate via the third acknowledgement. And if there is an action that needs to be taken by all marketing authorization holders, a communication is received through as an email via the EMA service desk. That communication is sent to all EV Human registered users. We obviously also include information in the relevant documents, such as guidance documents. And as I mentioned before, we contact certain companies or certain QPPVs of certain companies directly via email.
Okay, thank you. The next question, how the management for MRP DCP activities status will be impacted and by when? I don't really understand this question. I hope it refers to the pending products under the MRP and DCP procedures. So as Veronica has explained, we have deferred this activity because in principle, the web-based EAF is not allowing the variations on national products. So that is why, for the moment, we don't want to include these pending products on XCVMPD until the web-based EAF allows the generation of variations for NAPs. This is in principle happening by the end of the year. So whenever we have additional information when EAF is ready, we will be ready. We will provide information on how this product should be submitted to XCVMPD. The development is already in place. We just need to deploy it into production. But again, we want to wait until these products can be used in the web-based EAF, which for the moment, unfortunately, is not possible. Okay, so as per Chapter 7, for Luxembourg and Finland, the MA number, which is the same for all the records in XCVMPD independently of the name, is used as a grouping element. However, we are currently submitting AMPs entities with national numbers, pack size-wise, instead of a common MA number for Luxembourg. How will this work? We are using the MA number to group those products because for Luxembourg and Finland, these are countries with more than one official language. So we need to use the national, the MA number to group those products instead of the full presentation name. This is related to the question before, because for those countries, each of those records in XCVMPD will belong to a packaged medicinal product in PMS. So if you are already submitting at pack size level, that is fine. Those records in XCVMPD will belong to a pack size or a packaged medicinal product in PMS. We just need to go a bit further and see how can remove those duplicates, because we will have one pack size, let's say, per name. So this is related to the previous question where we will involve our SMEs and see how can we remove those duplicates. Thus, XCVMPD data load to PMS include pure nationals or MRP DCP's products, as well as the terminology sometimes is non-caps and sometimes is NAPs. So yeah, sorry, maybe, I mean, for us, non-caps and NAPs are the same. The XCVMPD load into PMS will include pure national and also MRP DCPs and also the cap products that we have in XCVMPD that will be matched and merged with the caps that we already have in PMS coming from the EMA database, which is SciAmed. We will try to harmonize the terminology, sorry. How we currently should correctly manage the update of IV codes in MRP DCPs after the end of procedure and considering different timings for the national approvals of the changes, SMPC's new versions. Well, I think this is already explained in chapter 3.2, so we know that for MRP DCPs and the national phases, approvals can be or the end of procedure can happen at different times. This is not a problem because for the same country, in principle, the end of procedure should happen at the same time. So you should update products from the same country whenever you have received the approval of the change or the initial marketing authorization. So this is already explained in chapter 3.2 as well. So in principle, there shouldn't be any problem here. And the last one is, do we will submit manufacturer data in XMPD for ESMP and by when? So again, we recommend you to come to the PMS Info Day that is going to be broadcasted on the 16th of April. We will provide all this information. As you already know, manufacturers is something that we don't track in XCVMPD. Therefore, you will not be able to submit manufacturers to XCVMPD. We will allow the submission of this information through PMS using the product user interface or the PMS API. And therefore, you will need to use these two sources to provide the manufacturer's data only for national products, MRP, DCPs, and pure nationals, because for CAPs, we already have this information at EMA. Again, dates and ways of submission will be announced on the 16th of April next week. Another one, for countries like Germany, where the MA number is not allocated on the pack size level, it is really required to split the existing XMPD product data into single data sets per pack size, or is it sufficient to enter information about the registered pack size in the package description field? So, as you know, this year, PMS is supporting ESMP, and they need information on pack size level. PMS is taking the data from XCVMPD, and therefore you will need to submit those pack sizes to XCVMPD. That means that you will need to submit individual records for each of the pack sizes for the products that are needed by ESMP. You will need to use the pack size description of each of those records to include the specific pack size. You cannot use, because this is what you are doing right now. For Germany, for example, you have only one record with all the pack sizes described in the package description. What we will be requesting you is to split this product on the different pack sizes, and in each of those records in XCVMPD use the package description to say, okay, this is the pack size of 20 tablets, this is the one for 100 tablets, etc. We will be updating chapter 3.2 to provide additional information on how this can be done, even though it is already explained. But we will provide additional information so people can understand it better in case they still have any question. Data quality. Previous experience is that there were changes made to product records that we did not agree or initiate. For example, MEDRA codes or substance codes were changed without our control, third acknowledgement. How do you recommend that we keep track of our products to take your data quality into account? Well, our recommendation always is that you should track the third acknowledgement that we are sending to you after each validation of each EV code. In this third acknowledgement, we can tell you, okay, the product has been validated, there is no change. Or if we have made any change, we can tell you, okay, these are the changes that we have made to your EV code. It is very, very important, and it is even more important now with PMS coming live, that you track this third acknowledgement. And if you don't agree with with the changes that we have performed, you can raise a ticket in ServiceNow. If you agree with the changes that we have made, then you need to update even the RIM system if you are a gateway submitter. Or if you are just using EV-Web to submit, then you don't have to do anything. But it's very, very important that you track those third acknowledgements to make sure that your data and our data is aligned. Moreover, we are sending follow-up communications to the users through email, so it is very important for your QPPVs to track their emails to make sure that they are receiving any follow-up communication like, okay, we are not able to validate your record because the SMPC is missing, or the MA number is missing in the SMPC. So our recommendation is to really follow the communications that we are having with you, either through the third acknowledgement or follow-up communications. If you don't agree with any of those changes, please let us know through ServiceNow. And yeah, I think this would be our recommendation so far.
Thank you. I don't see any further question on XEVMPD, and I took note that a lot of questions are actually on PMS, for which we will have a fully dedicated full-day broadcast. So do hope you join us there. If we still find any more product-related questions, we will address them at the end. And at the moment, we will move to the next topic, which I believe is OMS with Deborah Martins.
Thank you, Isabel. So moving on into the planned OMS activities and what we did at the end of last year in terms of customer service, we increased the amount of sampling that we were doing in terms of quality control and quality assurance. This to ensure that we improve our customer experience. Later on this year, we're planning on review some articles that we have in service desk. So last year we published some frequent asked questions in service desk, and this year we aim to review them and to do any necessary corrections in terms of data management. So at the end of last year, we published our first version of OMS data protection notice. In the meantime, some changes are already coming, but I will talk about this in an upcoming slide. Still in data management, so we did some improvements in terms of our SAP integration, how we are importing the data. We found some hiccups in our process, and this is now back up and running without any issues. Recently, we went live with an improved EV deltas to OMS. This is something that will also talk a little bit more in the next slide. And later on in the year, we will count with we'll have some data to integrate in OMS. In this case, we're talking pediatric data. It's an activity that we're planning to do in the Q2. In terms of data quality, we continue working on improving our OMS data quality. So at the beginning of this year, we conclude a major activity on the reaching our database with the legal addresses, but I'll show you more information next. We continue improving our OMS data quality profiles. This is where we found any deviation to our OMS data quality rules, where we aim to fix them as soon as we publish something that is not accurate. In terms of process improvement, so we aim to continue with our category review. So we started this last year, but there's still some work to be done here. As we've been doing for the past, I think, 2 years. So at the beginning of the year, we started our usually currency check. This is where we do a verification of records that have not been updated for the past 2 years. So we always start this activity with with marketing authorization holders that we have in OMS, and then we prioritize those records, and we move on into any other records that have not been updated for the past 2 years. In terms of documentation, as you know, OMS already has an extensive supporting documentation, but we continue working towards improving. And last year we started some collection from service desk experience, and we're going to take some of those comments to see where we can improve our documentation. So including, we would like to create some sort of index on how to read our documents, to because right now we already have a lot of documentation, and we feel that users may get lost on the first contact to our OMS portal. In terms of awareness, we will, my colleagues already mentioned, OMS will take active role in the upcoming SPOR webinars, and OMS will also participate in this PMS Info Day. In terms of modernization and our infrastructure, so we continue working on bug fixing and bringing new features. I'm going to talk about two upcoming features in the next slide. So in terms of work that we recently completed, so I've touched base in a couple of them just to give you more details and especially focus on the benefit that this will bring to our users. So starting with the enrichment that we did with the National Business Registry numbers. This is what I mentioned before on legal addresses. So we did this to facilitate the identification of potential duplicates. So we use now this number to help us identify to expedite the identification of any potential duplicates. It also allows us to quickly identify which is the legal address. So at the beginning of the year, so we ended the enrichment of over 13K legal addresses with each National Business Registry number. So, and we did this in order to provide a clear identification of this legal address. And how can you see this? So this is visible when you see an address in OMS that has a loc ID that has the National Business Registry number. This is how you can identify as a legal address. Another activity that we recently completed, which was related with the validation of US organization. So last year, it came to our attention that two of the validation sources that we were using, which was FDA and DUNS, they were not accurate to and in line to our OMS data quality standards. This was following that we found that the presence of departments and units were actually being created as a main legal entity in those two websites. And following this activity, so we went looking for a better for another source of information, and here our key user group was crucial to this step. So at the beginning of the year, we successfully update our OMS data quality standards with over 25 US state business registry. And with the new sources, what we did is we went back to the organizations that we deactivate with the decommission of FDA and DUNS as validation sources in OMS, and we review any records and reactivated any records that we could find in these new state business registries. So with this, we continue to ensure that OMS contains only legal entities and not departments and units. With this, we successfully reduced the number of rejected change requests due to the lack of not having a reliable validation source. And of course, we're talking only 25 sources of information. We know that we still have work to be done here. And if you have any information, we're happy to hear from you. Just reach out through ServiceNow in case you have any other states that are currently missing from our data quality standards. And last but not least, on these completed activities, we have the EV deltas to OMS. It was a major improvement that we did in our OMS. So this feature will help OMS ensuring that we have all EV marketing authorization holders and the sponsors EV codes and data imported into OMS in an automated process. So this is something that we receive on a live. Any change that happen on marketing authorization holders or sponsors in EV, OMS receives it with no more than an hour later than being updated in EV. So as I said, this we went live at the beginning of the year. We're now importing and creating and standardizing organizations, locations, and EV codes that are created or updated in EV. So with this activity, we aim to smooth the migration into a PMS to ensure that we have indeed a copy of EV. A copy meaning that we have the same data standardized in OMS. So we aim to have this before the PMS go live in order to minimize any access issues to ensure that users will see all their products on the go live date. Well, of course, if you still find any misleading information there and EV code that it's not in alignment with EV, let us know through service now and we will look into it. In terms of upcoming activities, so I'm bringing you three main activities. So one of them, it's the OMS to register some individuals. And here, I would like to call your attention that this will not be open to all OMS consuming systems. This is a process, an ad hoc process that OMS will create, whilst UPD and other GMDP are doing an assessment of a long-term solution. So certain individuals will be added to OMS in order to be able to not to have any block on any vet procedure or any certificate from being issued. So we're working towards creating the process, the validation process of those entities and how we're going to publish them. An update to our current OMS data protection notice will need to happen. So we're currently doing an impact assessment. We're trying to see what is the legal justification for those entities to exist, taking into consideration that they're not registered with the National Business Registry. We're also working in terms of implementation. We aim to implement later on in the year. So just as a final note, not to forget, we're not expecting more users individual to register in OMS. This will only be an ad hoc process for UPD and other GMDP users. In terms of upcoming features, so the first one, which is the version reason. So with this feature, we aim to increase the transparency for the creation of a new version, either at organization or location level. How are we going to do this? To each and every new version that OMS will generate, 2 new fields will be added. So a version type and a version comment. The version type will be a standardized list coming from RMS. So this is something that we aim to discuss in Q2 with the key user group to find all the possible terms that will be needed for this to successfully go into production. And the second field, the version comment, where we're going to be able to provide a little bit, it's an open comment, where we will provide any further details to the reason why we change and potential outcome. Implementation, we aiming to implement this later on in the year between Q2 and Q3. A practical example of what you will gain with this new version. So, for example, when you have with this new feature, you'll be able to clearly see why a new version was created. For example, if it was due to location standardization, and we will use this term coming from RMS, standardized simple as location standardization. And then in the comment, we'll provide some clear, a little bit more information on the reason why do we have to create this change. Was it because a change in the National Postal Service? We'll provide some more clarity for the creation of a new version. Another example, which is when we have a merge in OMS, either a business merge or a technical merge, we will, on the version type, we will take, again, the RMS term. On the version comment, what we will add is we will add more information on why did we do this merge. Was it because a duplicate existed? Was it because it was a business acquisition? And at the end, also provide clear information on which of the IDs will be the master ID, which will prevail after this OMS merge. And last but not least, a new feature that you probably have been hearing for some time now, which is the return change request functionality. So with this, we aim to reduce the number of rejected change requests. We still have a considerable high number of rejected change requests due to the missing documentation, and we want to target those. And of course, with this also to simplify the user experience in order not to have the user to bombard the user with rejections and the user having to open a ticket to understand why did it happen and having to open a new request. So we're trying, with this, we aim to improve our customer experience and simplify the end-to-end process. So this is not going to be more than the user goes to our portal, our OMS portal, he submits a request, the data steward see that something it's missing and it's the information that the user provided is not enough for a successful data validation. So we will be able to return the change request and allow the user to provide more clarification, for example, to attach supporting documentation that will allow us to successfully approve the change request. Implementation is again coming later on, expected coming later on in the year. And just to end this RMS presentation with some highlights. So I've showed you what recently changes that we did to OMS, just to highlight those EV deltas improvements, the new sources of validation for US organizations. There's still work ongoing in terms of currency check, working on the version reason in order to make the the implementation of this version reason functionality easier. What else can we highlight here? In terms of future changes, as I mentioned, we're expecting to do some data cleansing to support pediatrics with some data cleansing, and also in the future to collaborate with the new fee regulation in order to improve VET marketing authorization holders with SAP codes for to support the new fee regulation. And I think with this.
So, Deborah, we're running a little bit behind schedule and we're supposed to take questions and answers now. So I urge participants online to please vote the most preferred questions. We will take only a few, I'm afraid, and we will circle back if we still have time at the end of the session. So, Deborah, starting with the most voted, I hand over to you and probably will pause within a couple of minutes. So try to be brief on the answers.
Yeah, thank you. So starting with this is a frequent question, and this to have this when some corrections are done on OMS, if the SPOR users could be notified. So this is the subscription functionality. This is something that we have for quite some time in our backlog, but we have due to other priorities to support other work streams, we have not been able to prioritize. It's in our backlog. We'll see when we are able to prioritize this feature. We have noticed changes to OMS data, not initiated by us, changes associated with organization, mainly changes to area name or removal of area info. What triggered those changes? Shouldn't the organization be informed? So here, starting with this part, shouldn't the organization be informed before the changes happen? So this it's linked. This subscription is a feature that is coming, informing the organization before the changes happen. This unfortunately is not something that we can accommodate. We urge you to consult our OMS portal before submission of any regulatory procedures. Why those changes happen. As you can see, OMS does not handle change requests. We have all sorts of activities from the back end, mainly in terms of data quality, and I'm sure this is what happened in this address. Changes associated to organization, mainly to area name, probably something that changed from the national Postal Service, and OMS published the latest version of the data that we have from this National Postal Service. But if you have any particular question, please raise a service desk ticket, and we're happy to look into more detail on what happened to that organization and address. OMS does not address much address from SMPC. With this,
Yeah, I think there's a bit of an overlap of what OMS does and what we do in products in XEVMPD and the validation against SMPC. So OMS validates addresses against reference sources. And those reference sources are the national business registries for the organizations and legal entities and the postal services for the addresses. We are now asking companies to submit that same information in XEVMPD in accordance to OMS and refer the OMS LocID in comments. And we will make sure that the information is equivalent to what is stated in the SMPC, but it will not be a copy-paste of what is stated in the SMPC. So there might be typos, commas, dots, uppercases, lowercases, and small differences to what you see on the SMPC, but the information is equivalent. And I'm afraid this will be the last question we'll take for the moment on OMS. I see that there's a lot of questions. We will try to circle back. Pardon? So, can you?
Yeah. Okay. So about this one, I'm assuming this is it's an old request that OMS has been looking into it. So which is to have register more sites in one LocID. So OMS took this to EMA Data Board. OMS took this question to our data governance. And for the time being, we have not implemented this because we don't have approval from the governance to proceed with this. So for the time being, we urge you to use one LocID and to use the remarks section on the certificates to add any extra door numbers that OMS does not contain.
Apologies, I understand there's lots of questions, but we will now move ahead with RMS presentation. And depending on the volume of questions there, and also for IAM in the end, we may circle back to OMS or the most voted questions. So if you prefer voted questions on XEVMPD, SMS, OMS, please vote on your preference.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I'm here as a temporarily for the next 6 months representing RMS as business lead. If I may have the next slide. Today I will be presenting, as per the other colleagues and services, the planned activities for RMS service and give you a brief overview of what we have been able to deliver over the last quarter, the last 2 quarters, and what we plan to do in the next quarters. So in terms of delivering an efficiency of the RMS service, in quarter 4, actually we are already in quarter 2, we have increased a lot the quality control and the level of the quality assurance of the RMS terms and lists that have been published and are available into RMS portal. Of course, we don't end here in quarter 4. Of course, these activities will be continuing across the whole year, and this is most in particularly because we aim to focus in supporting totally the PMS go live. In terms of data management activities and then the daily management of the changes requests and the data services provided to the customers, we have been doing an intensive exercise along and in cooperation with our XEVMPD colleagues and also PMS, of course. We have created and reviewed a series of XEVMPD and RMS files, which will give you a clear guidance on the next steps that will be important for you in the view of the go live of PMS and the future submission of specific data sets of PMS data. We will be providing also guidance to explain to you the scope of this exercise, what we aim to achieve, and of course, what's the impact from your side in terms of industry stakeholders. In addition to that, from quarter 2, we also aim to start the RMS Medra API integration. So, as you know, this Medra list, vet and human, we always implement it on a yearly basis. We are looking to further streamline the process in which this information comes, and so we aim to connect to the API. We also aim in quarter 3 to enable the MDM, so the medical device list released by the European Commission in a bulk update process. And in relation to the data quality, we have been doing some minor updates in terms of the Medra hierarchies, and also we have been fixing some SOC primary SOC levels because we noticed that this wasn't correctly reported. So that's also further explain the reason why we are aiming to achieve an RMS and Medra API connection directly. In terms of data quality list, we have been discussing in consultation with our internal subject matter experts the review of the manufacturing activity list. This list is aiming to support the PMS go live and future products connected to PMS. So the first release has been actually already been released and published in the RMS portal, and we aim to continue with the consultation with other on other RMS lists, specifically the special precaution for storage, the shelf life, and the target species. Those are the prioritized ones. We also aim to improve the data quality report, so the way the terms are described, so the information, this can facilitate also the user in understanding exactly which term can be used, again, for PMS go live, but also for XEVMPD. In terms of documentation, instead, for improving your customer satisfaction level, we aim to release over the 2024. Actually, we already started in 23. In the last quarter, some list information documents for the most prioritized list, which are indeed the manufactured activity and the last 3 lists I just mentioned, including the unit of measurements. In addition to that, and this is just to protect your personal data, there is a data protection notice in RMS that we aim to deliver and implement in Q2, possibly beginning of Q3. This will be also addressed. In terms of events and awareness, to raise awareness and visibility from your side, as you know, we have held the SPOR week in October last year. We had also launched the SPOR customer satisfaction survey. Then today we have the SPOR update webinar, and we really encourage you, as my colleagues already mentioned, to join the PMS Info Day, because we are aiming to connect the dots in supporting the go live of PMS, which is an important milestone. In July, we also aim to host another webinar, and specifically in this case we will be providing you more information about the XCVMPD RMS mapping exercise that we've been doing and the impact for you. Related to the modernization of the RMS service, we are of course exploring new ways to and initiatives to modernize the technology. Most importantly for you is we have just release in production the possibility for unaffiliated users to submit change requests. This is already available, so if you access RMS even without login, you will be able to submit certain change requests even if you're not registered yet. We have improved also the portal in RMS, so you might see some differences in the way you can query the portal and the way you can see the data. And of course, we are also aiming, but this will be delivered in Q3, end of Q3, the release via the RMS API of the previous version of each RMS terms. If I may have the next slide, I will quickly focus on what we have been completed as a work. I already mentioned we had a consultation with our SMEs in terms of reviewing all the terminologies for the manufacturing activities in view of the PMS go live, but also the connection with the ESMP. We know that you have submitted many change requests and proposals to update these terms, so we have taken all of them since the go live of RMS, and we have submitted for revision and assessment at the level of a multidisciplinary group of experts that was just created in December last year. And then the results can be found either in the minutes that have been released a few days ago in the RMS portal at the document section. You can see here the link, and we will be sharing the presentation so you can access it. But also we have already updated all the terms and the changes that were agreed by this group into production. So this list is already up to date, and the next update is planned to be taken in Q3 or Q4 2024, depending on the needs. Regarding the next key list to be updated in terms of list of information documents, as I already mentioned, there is a need for you to have a clear guidance which term should be selected and what's the scope of this list. So we are aiming to release 4 new documents, 1 per each list, and this will be mostly for you important because you can stay up to date on the changes that we have been able to provide to you, but also it can prevent the level of change requests that maybe you have submitted and might be rejected, or even tickets in ServiceNow. If I can have the next slide. I think this is one of the most important parts because it's strictly connected to the go live of PMS. The first topic is guidance on XCVMPD RMS mapping. I have just anticipated that we know that because of the use of XCVMPD and RMS terms, which will be supporting the PMS go live and the future use of PMS, you need to be totally aligned in the terms that you select into XCVMPD versus the terms that will be made available based on the delta into PMS. So we are releasing these clear guidances, and we are talking about 3 files on the main painful list, because the rest of the lists that are shared between XCVMPD and RMS are already aligned. At your attention, this will be made available in the next couple of days, in any case before our PMS Info Day, so you can already have a look. And it will guide you clearly on what kind of impact you may have on your product in XCVMPD, whether or not you should be updating your products. Regarding the unaffiliated user, I think I just explained, so I will just keep this, but it's definitely a benefit for you as an industry or NCA users. You can now submit any change requests even without being registered or logged into RMS portal. Relating to RMS UX improvements, I said there are new ways of navigating, and from a user experience, we have addressed quite a lot of issues. Still, some have to come, but in this way now you can already see that the columns have been updated in the way you can see the data, and also the terminologies and the source ID and term status in RMS, they also more sortable, so you can have a quick results and searching much better than it was before. Translations, you can also see translations. If you browse in the translation area, you can see all this previously submitted translation. So this will have an impact for you because you can facilitate your research even in the next. It's already live, so you can already see the benefit, hopefully. And with that, I think I have another slide and I've finished. Yes, just a summary for you, highlights what we have been doing. I said we have updated the SPOR and affiliated user. You can submit a change request. We have been updating the way you can see our portal. We have improved it. We have also improved the measure list hierarchy and primary SOCs. This is a data fix that we've been delivered. We have also improved the list of some key information documents, and we have also updated the key list manufacturing activities as per results of the SMEs. Now, we are working, currently we're already in Q2, so we are already we're about to release the guidances on XVMPD and RMS mapping, both files, and also we will be releasing a document explaining you which kind of steps you should be taking in case you need to request a new term based on each of different releases. This is also for transparency, not only for internal purposes, but also externally. We also aim to release the MDM list, and this will be used in particular in PMS in the level of the medical device sections. Future changes, of course, we need to deliver and implement the data protection notice, as I said. We need to improve the documentation on the updates that we release on MEDRA and release the API integration, as well as implementing the possibility for users to querying RMS API and see the previous versions of every term. So this is specifically done for tracking purposes. The future changes, so this means that it's not coming in Q3, but it will come over the year, is we want to enable the MDN bulk update process. And also we aim to consult the multidisciplinary group on the SMEs for the purpose of reviewing the next key, consider the key list, so the special precaution for storage, shelf life, and target species. And I think there are some questions, so I end over here. Thank you.
So thank you, Veronica, very much for trying to gain some time back. I think we will still take a few questions, maybe a couple, only 3 most voted ones. And the same way as I suggested to Deborah, we will try to address some in writing in the meantime while we move on to the next topic. But let's take the 3 most raised questions.
Sure. So the first one is for RMS terms with an hierarchy, what granularity do you expect MAH to submit? For example, if the control vocabulary manufacturing activity list of the manufacturing activities of the active substance has an hierarchy with purification, fermentation, and modification, what level should we submit the manufacturing activity? So the answer is basically, I think you are referring to the PMS data submission, because this is not, of course, available for XVMPD. So as we explained in the chapter 2 of the UAG guidance for PMS, we explained that, of course, you should be selecting the most applicable term to your case. So this should be in line with the section 2.5 of the manufacturer of initial marketing authorization application electronic form, but also on the module 32P31 or 32S21. So it depends. This short answer is that it might be at the first level, it might be at the second level. In PMS, we enable any kind of level as long as it meets the requirements for the products to be submitted as authorized. So the next question is, will the MAH is impacted by RMS terms mapping receive a request directive from the EMA to update the XVMPD accordingly? So little spoiler, you might be impacted. We might request you to update the XVMPD records in order to be able to propagate this correctly into PMS. So this can be ISO-DMP compatible formats based on RMS terms. We are releasing these files, as I mentioned, but these files will be Excel file explaining you what action should be taken if you have if you're using a term that is current or not current, and this term is being mapped to a current or not current term, or even nullified. So for each of these, there is an action on your side. But also we are releasing you a guidance on how to submit a change request clearly, so it can prevent you the level of the change request submitted or rejected, possibly not. On top of that, we are aiming on the 10th of July to host a dedicated webinar to explain to you what we do expect from your side, what's the impact, and how to read these documents as well. So in answer, yes. If I can take the next question. Last one. Okay, I'm allowed to have one more. Will the MAH is... no, this is the same. The RMS mapping reflects many XVMPD terms without exposing the XVMPD terms value. So it's very difficult to see the RMS mapping. Will the mapping table be provided for each RMS terms? Yes, I understand and I agree. This might be very difficult for the user. So in the file, we are providing you not only the codes, the EV codes and the ID, RMS ID, but also the RMS terms and the related XVMPD EV terms. So you can clearly understand to which we are referring. So please be ensure that we are taking this very seriously. And I think I finished my time. So thank you very much.
So again, apologies for those who submitted questions that we cannot address. We might try to address them in writing in the meantime. I will now hand over to Carlo, who will be talking briefly about identity and access management. That depends usually on OMS and has some great news for you. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Carlo De Vittoria. I'm part of the Information Security Service at EMA. I'm going to present you what changed and what is going to change in EMA account management. So last quarter, we worked on a better management of OMS organization merges in EMA account management. As hopefully, you know, you can request access on behalf of an organization in EMA account management. So when a merge happens in OMS, this has an impact also on the access that you have in the different EMA systems. And in OMS, a merge could happen due to business reason, like an acquisition, but also due to duplicate detection. So what we have implemented is a notification to the different user administrators or super users of the impacted organization so that they can react when this happens. And they can review the different users that are accessing the EMA systems in behalf of the merged organization. On the same topic, we also introduced the possibility to request access to historical records or records that have been merged in OMS. And this allows still users that need to access information in EMA systems that are still linked to this record that have been merged to another record in OMS. So when users are now requesting access on behalf of an organization, on the first screen when they want to look for the organization they need to request access for, they have a flag that they can tick to include also historical records. Last but not least, another important change that we have implemented in our system is a preview of how we want to authenticate users in the future for all EMEA systems. We want to allow users to authenticate using their email address and not anymore using an EMA user ID. And we want them to authenticate with the method that is known to them. So with the code on an email address or with an authentication method that they use on a daily basis. The aim of this is to have something that is user-friendly and also more secure. With this method, you can forget your EMA user ID and password, but at the same time, every time you authenticate to an EMA system, we are going to verify that the email address you are using is still active. So this ensures that you are still allowed to work for that specific company. Unfortunately, this is not available for all EMEA systems. So it's not available for SPOR as an example, but for most of EMEA systems like IRIS, the PLM portal, EudraLink, or even EudraVigilance CTIS. So we are working to make all the systems capable to integrate with this feature, and we hope that you opt in. And now let's have a look of what's next. So this is an overview of what we are going to implement in the next quarter. We have a lot of things on our pipeline, but those are the ones that will have an direct impact on our external users. The first thing is we are going to add the possibility to terminate an email account. We know that you want to collaborate with us, but as everything live, sometimes things ends. And we need to allow you to do this by yourself. So if you are not working anymore with your company and you need to terminate your email account, we will allow you to do this in a self-service way without the need to contact the service desk to terminate your account. Another feature that we are going to implement is what we call an organization shopping cart. Right now, when you are requesting access on behalf of an organization, you can select several legal entities that are coming from OMS, but there is no possibility to go back and forward between the different screens and keep adding organizations. So we are going to add this possibility in the user interface of the system, so that whenever you are looking for an organization across different countries and even with slightly different names, you can request all this organization in a single request without the need to have multiple requests. And that's all from my side.
So just to recap, particularly the last improvement of having the users select multiple organizations in one go to request access, I think that's been pretty much on the list of expectations from the users of SPOR, including PMS that's coming ahead. So that's very much appreciated. I see no particular IAM questions at the moment. We still have the other questions. So if they do come in, Carlo, if you could stay a few minutes, just in case they do come in, I will pass the floor to Carlo. I would like just to recap a few pieces of information in the meantime of how to stay connected. So today we tried a little bit of a different format with just focusing on updates, what we've done and what we're planning for the next quarter, and what are the key highlights for you. We plan to repeat a similar webinar on the 10th of July, where we're going to tell you the newest activities happening on SPOR and XEVMPD. And towards the end of the year, so on the 14th, on the 4th to 14th of October, we plan to have the full week of webinars like we did last time, where we will have one webinar a day on the different topics, and we will cover all the principles, business rules, the processes to apply for change requests, as well as what we're planning to do and next steps for each of the domains. So the intention is to do 2 brief updates. If that is something that you would like, we might repeat it more, but we also have a yearly opportunity to recap everything you need to know on each of the individual domains and do a little bit of a training session. We also run a yearly satisfaction survey, which will be run between October and November. And this is where we collect feedback not only on how we manage the data and the business rules and if we're providing a good service, but also in terms of communication, what is your preferred way forward? And we used the results of last time to come up with this particular format this time around to see if it meets your expectations. So please, when we run it, do use the opportunity to provide feedback. We look at that very carefully. Last but not least, it's been mentioned already today. Next slide, please. Next week, Tuesday, 16th of April, we will have a full day dedicated to PMS. This will be a live broadcast, and we will also have a specific topic on the mappings of the referential terms, the OMS terms, and the substances that might be of interest if you still have outstanding questions. Next, Deborah, because I think it has animations, sorry. And I go back. I think there is one question on IAM that came in the meantime. I will leave Carlo to address that. I will read it out loud. And I also think we have a little survey on this particular webinar format that I would appreciate your feedback. So if you can go back to the survey. So the IAM question, so that was not it. So let me find it, is the one about self-service. Sorry, we need to, yeah. So Carlo, is the self-service for deleting EMA account already available, or else please state a time?
Yeah, not available yet. We are planning to implement this by the end of this month.
Do we still have outstanding questions? I feel we have a little bit of time to revisit some. So maybe we can go back to the Slido, not the ones that were starred, but everything that is there, and see which are the top voted. And I think we can buy ourselves a fair good of time to revisit any topic in any order that they were voted in. So, So I suppose the first question is it possible to produce one document reporting all the rules that companies should apply to be in compliant with all these requirements? So it would be very hard to do one document for everything. We have a document for OMS, we have a document, a guidance for SMS, we have lots of documents for PMS and lots of documents for XEVMPD. We are updating those documents because they're built on a perspective of what you need to know. So we keep updating those multiple documents, and the intention is to bring to your attention via these particular webinars what are the key changes. And like we did today, if one of the changes is we've changed this document for XEVMPD, we expect that you go and review it. But it's very hard to produce one document that would report all this across all the domains and keep it in line with what's happening all the time. So there will be multiple documents, and whenever we update the relevant documents, we plan to broadcast it via similar webinars to you, so you can go and review the relevant documentation. The next question on Medra, will it be integrated in RMS? I pass that to Veronica.
So the short answer is yes, will be integrated. So RMS will be able to read Medra browsers via connecting to application programming interface, so the API. So far, because you might not know, this list is updated currently with several steps and manual processes. So we aim to facilitate and streamline the way the Medra list is getting updated into RMS portal. So that's why we are looking for this API integration. And to reply to the second part of the question, you will be still able to see all the Medra terms, the level, the hierarchy, and the mapping, and also the versions. Nothing will change from that side. It's just a technical integration that we are implementing to facilitate on a timely matter the update of this list.
So just to summarize, Medra is already in RMS for many years now. It was actually one of the first lists we did back in UTCT. What we're doing is improving the way that we keep it up to date by consuming the API provided by MSSO, the list owner for Medra. So that's what we're doing. But the hierarchy, everything else is there. Next question, EV codes.
I can take this one.
I think this is for OMS.
Yeah. And before I start, I think this is a very good question. And this question is actually going to be addressed in our PMS Info Day. So I urge you to go to this and to come to this PMS Info Day. But in a nutshell, to tell you, so this with the feature that I talked during my presentation, which is EV deltas, what we're doing is we are aligning the information that is in EV and importing this data plus EV codes into OMS. How will these EV codes be linked to the correct loc ID? This is part of the OMS EV deltas to OMS process. This is how we align. As the loc ID is provided in XCVMPD, that is accurate. Do we now need to submit an update to update OMS? Yes, this is always a must. So if you have a new location linked to an organization, first point is always OMS. You always need to ensure that the data is available in OMS so that you can then update your current EV code with OMS details, reference to the location plus the loc ID. Because if you don't have this, you will not be able to provide the loc ID and the integration may fail. That's why OMS is always the first point, only then you go into EV.
I think the next question I've already addressed before, or we've addressed before, that OMS aligns with reference sources, national business registries, and postal services. In XCVMPD, we align with SMPC, but we make sure that the information is consistent and equivalent with the SMPC, but the master will be OMS. So we've covered that before. Could it be possible to have all changes and updates on these projects in a unique EMA webpage? That is also very challenging for us, if I must say. Our EMA webpage has a very cumbersome process to get things published, approved, adopted, and they're supposed to be fairly stable. So our proposed approach is to do these frequent webinars where we will highlight to you what is relevant and have slightly more static content on the EMA web page. So stay tuned. The way to get these changes and updates is through webinars similar to these.
Do we have a plan to give the companies the possibility to add OMS the role for the organization? No, we don't have a plan for this because this goes against one of the OMS principles, which is that OMS aims to provide a standardized list of organization location to be used all across consuming systems, meaning one organization can assume a marketing authorization holder role in one regulatory procedure, and it can be a manufacturer in another procedure. So this is not in the plans, and it goes against our OMS principles.
So I think the next question we've also covered. So Deborah explained that companies, whether they're marketing authorization holders or sponsors, should first register in OMS, because that's how the information gets passed to CTIS, to XEVMPD, to EAF, and so on, and to IAM, which we covered today. So first OMS, and then you will need to create or update them in XEVMPD as well. And when you do, it should be aligned with what you've registered in OMS. So the same actions apply to sponsors and marketing authorization holders. As for the date of July webinar, I mentioned is 10th of July. Yes, we understand it's a holiday period. June would be too close to this one. We hope we can make it. You can make it, but if you cannot, the event will also be broadcasted and recording, so we hope you can catch up at a later stage.
And now there is a question on SMS. Is there a way to see or get warning when SMS extract is updated in the SMS portal or history tab to indicate what has changed when? So the export is automatically updated every day, so you don't need a warning. It is a daily update, both the current and the non-current exports. Having a history tab would make the file much bigger, much larger, and more complex to maintain. We can investigate the possibility of highlighting changes, but having all the history in the same CSV file would likely crash the file. But we will look into the possibility of highlighting changes. But in any case, you can see the last updated date in the export, and then you also have the SMS API where you can see the history of substances and the versions.
This one's for me. When do you check all the national business registries? So this is easy. You go to OMS portal and all the validation sources are available in our OMS data quality standards. Feel free to have a look on what we have there. All those sources were put together many years ago. We used the support from and not only NCAs, but also our key user group to work and to make sure that what we have there is the accurate data. But of course, if you find anything that is not up to date or it's not correct, I urgently ask you to please create a service desk ticket, and we're happy to review it. Thank you.
I think the next is for me. So is it feasible to get the number of registered super users or user administrator across their own company organization worldwide? Yes. So in EMA account management, if you are the super user of an organization, you can go to a tile that is called Manage Access, where you are able to see all the users, including the super users, that are working for the organization that you are able to manage. And you can export that list in Excel or CSV and check all the users that you are managing. And from that screen, you are also able to revoke the access if anybody should not be entitled anymore to access on behalf of your organization. Oh, yeah, we skip a question, but I saw it, so...
Yeah, so go.
The question was what to do if when registering an account you are not receiving an email address. Most of the time we have seen that there are delays in receiving this email address that are not under our control. Sometimes emails are analyzed by other systems and this is creating delays, or sometimes they are going into spam folders or quarantine. So make sure that the email address registered at ema.europa.eu is allowed by your organization to receive this email address.
Now a question on INN names. So is there a process between EMA and WHO when a substance receives INN names? Can we, the industry, send notification in SMS service now when we have a new INN approved? How fast do you update? We often are pushed from our colleagues to get XCVMPD substance record updated. So at the moment, there is no formal process between EMA and WHO for this data enrichment exercise. We do start working on it when WHO publishes a new INN list, either proposed INN or recommended INN. We aim to complete it in about 1 week, but there's always a few substances that we are not able to identify or to update. So if you notice that your substance already has an INN, but it's not registered yet, so you can always create a change request to update the substance or to create a substance if the substance is missing. So anyone can create substance requests.
I think I can take the next one for the example of Germany. So this is a question again regarding the pack sizes, where you need to split products that are submitted at medicinal product level. So a record in XCVMPD for all your pack sizes will have to be split in the different pack sizes. That means that you will have one EV code per pack size, and you will need to maintain all these EV codes. So it is a change on the current behavior, because for those products, you might need to now submit different EV codes to cover all your pack sizes, but it's the current behavior you have for other countries, as I said before, such as Italy, Romania, or other countries. So this is a behavior that you are already, let's say, managing. It's just that you will need to extend this to other countries, such as Germany, Spain, or other countries. So nothing new in principle here. It's just more EV codes to be maintained.
And I suggest we take one last question on OMS, and then we will move on to the poll on the session today.
So in terms of OMS mappings, how frequent these mappings are updated? This is a daily activity. It depends how frequent they change. And it depends the type of mapping that we're talking about. For example, if we talk National Business Registry, this is a mapping. So the frequency of this, it doesn't change that frequently. So for any changes to the National Business Registry, we ask companies to let us know about any change. If something in the meantime changes and the company doesn't tell us, we use our currency check to try to get any of those changes. When we talk, for example, EV deltas, and the EV codes that we map in our OMS. So the frequency that we update those is, if they change in EV, of course, we will update them in OMS as needed. And I think, yeah.
I understand that there's still some unanswered questions. We will try to have a look at those, as I've mentioned at the beginning. So I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I hope it was informative. And before we leave, can I kindly ask you to fill out a quick survey, as it's the first time we're trying this format, to understand if this is something that we should further explore and keep, or if we need to adjust going forward. So thank you very much for joining. Please leave us your feedback, and we look forward to see you next Tuesday on the PMS Info Day and in July in the next status update.